All right. Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Dean Tinney, aka the Series 7 Guru, with our very special guest, Brian Lee, Managing Member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. We're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time, to help you with any content you have, with any exams, as well as have some fun and fellowship. I always mention content first because every once in a while we have so much fun and fellowship, and then Brian gives me grief saying, "Hey, there wasn't enough content on that meeting." I'm
Throw
teasing.
me under the bus. Go ahead.
I'm teasing. Tell us what series exam you're taking and where you're joining us from. We get some housekeeping, then we'll get right to the questions. It's helpful when you're giving us questions to tell us which exam that you're seeking help on, because there's a lot of overlap, and it's helpful to know which exam, and because they test a little differently. So that's helpful. It's not necessary. It also helps us pull it out of the chat. You can submit questions early, and we did have somebody submit some questions. They go to the top of the queue. If you want to submit questions before Tuesday, you're welcome to do so at Livestream at guruexamprep.com. Let's get some housekeeping done. We have a new Facebook group called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. We're up to 85 members already. Baby Brokers is a term of endearment for rookies in our securities industry. Hat trick is 3 successes in a limited time frame. There's a couple ways to do the hat trick. 7 are SIE 766, SIE 763, 6 SIE 663. So join us there. I think it's a little more interactive. The reason I decided to start a Facebook group, we also have our Reddits if you want to remain private, which I think is good, particularly for like 24s. Maybe you don't want to put it out there that, how can I park my registration? Not supposed to. But if you like that, that's available to you on Facebook. There's chats for each of the individual series as well. If you want to purchase a paid supplement, the best free supplement is my YouTube channel. And the best way to access the YouTube channel is through the playlists. So you find your series exam, 24, SIE, whatever it is. There's more than one playlist. They're in suggested watch order as well as the videos. So it's a buffet, take what you like, leave what you want. If you're looking for a paid supplement, I recommend the Kaplan Q Bank. Any Kaplan product and service can be accessed with the Guru 15 discount code at checkout. And then Brian has been kind enough to offer our viewers and subscribers 20% off on his content at Test Geek. So all in, that's just a little over $100 for the full video courses of the various series and the PDF, which has class notes, and I think one of the best practice exams out there. If you are not binging, please use the channel search bar, because it's aggravating. People say, "Hey, do you have anything on accrued interest? Do you have anything on margin?" I say, put it in the channel search bar, and everything we have will come up, and there's lots of it. Accretion, whatever the case may be. So don't be looking for a needle in a haystack. Just use that channel search bar. We can tell people haven't used it because I don't know about you, Brian. We get the same questions over and over and over again every Tuesday when there's probably 5 videos on that. I am offering evening classes in the month of April. I'm offering a basic options class for $35, a stock plus options. That's covered calls, protective puts. $35 advanced option strategies for $60. You can access those at deantinneytutoring.setmore.com. That's my booking page. The booking page, everything on the channel is free, but the booking page, there's only a couple of things that are free. If you do sign up for one of those classes, it unlocks free office hours that accompany any of my Kaplan classes, any tutoring, any class I offer you, then you're eligible for free office hours. And you can find that at the booking page as well. The other thing, next Tuesday, we don't do this every Tuesday, but next Tuesday at 6 p.m., if you join us, there's a live stream overtime session. And we get a whiteboard, a electronic version, not as nice as Brian's, but an electronic version. And we go over anything you would like to talk about. I don't offer that all the time. I offer it every now and again, and I will be offering it next Tuesday. All right. I think that takes care of housekeeping. Oh, one more thing. We do a drawing. We do it at the end of our session. And within 1 hour, you got to claim that by saying you're the winner by sending an email to coaching call guruexamprep.com. Tonight, we'll be drawing for free attendance in one of these classes. You can pick which one you want to attend. If you can't attend, you can give it to somebody else, and we can work that out. So that will be what we'll be raffling off. I think, Brian, we're going to add some books too. I'd like to start raffling off Schwab's memoir, Invested, and Ricketts' memoir, The Harder I Work, The Luckier I Get. I'm just trying to figure out the logistics of that because
right, that's the first thing that goes through my mind. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, that's a pain. All right, so here's our first question that came up on an early submission to Livestream at guruexamprep.com. It's a series 24. And he said, Dean, can you and Brian comment on supervision of social media? I think this discussion would be appropriate for both the 10 and the 24. The first thing is that we have to have in our WSPs, our written supervisory procedures, what are our firm's policies and procedures as it relates to social media. Remember, we ask every new hire to read the WSPs of the firm. It has, social media, insider trading, all those kind of things. So first, a thing you should be aware of is sales supervisors are not principals. And so when we say that if we're going to allow reps to use a social media site, the first thing is that it has to be approved by a Series 24. And that 24 has looked at that social media site and has determined that associated person can and will comply with applicable rules. Surprising, Brian. I've seen a lot of firms that will allow LinkedIn, fewer firms that allow Facebook, and I don't know of any firm that allows participation in Reddit, maybe because it's anonymous or whatever it is. The second testable point for a 24 is the distinction between static content and interactive content. So static content is typically posted long-term. I think LinkedIn profile, for example. And so if you're going to go up on LinkedIn as an associated person of the firm, I had somebody work for me, Brian. I found them on LinkedIn and I didn't know they were there. That's bad form. And they were using their personal phone number for the contact information instead of the firm. Now, she took exception when I called her out on it. And I said, well, listen, then don't put yourself on LinkedIn as an associated person of my firm. Make yourself an independent contractor or something. So that's static content. And the test question is that has to be approved by a principal prior to use. Interactive content, I think of as more real time, contemporaneous, right? So, you're interacting. And so it's impossible for a principal to approve the kind of interaction that's taking place in interactive content. And so the testable distinction, this does not require prior principal approval, but it does require supervision. And so you would supervise interactive content in the same way that you supervise correspondence or institutional communication. So if you're going to allow your reps as a principal to use interactive communications prior to principal approval, which most firms are going to do, again, that has to be provided for in your WSPs. And then you would have to train your reps accordingly, right? How are your reps going to, do that, and how you're going to surveil for compliance. In social media supervision, you should be aware of third parties, third-party post and entanglement with third-party content is part of social media supervision. Firms can't link to a third-party site that they know to have or reason to know that is false and misleading. Again, that just, I think, is common sense. And then you can become entangled if you're actually using that information or helping in presenting or coming up with that information. What that's basically FINRA saying is you're going to be held accountable for that content. And then term suitability, are you going to allow reps to make a recommendation in social media? Probably not, right? The only time you would allow a rep to make a recommendation in interactive content in social media is if you've approved it previously or you're using a content or template that can be used in social media to make those recommendations. All right, the other thing that came in early, another Series 24, is the business continuity plan. That's very testable. You have to have 2 links on the business continuity plan. Let me rephrase. 2 links on the website, one to broker check, very testable, and then a link to the business continuity plan. Either gives it to them or tells the client how to get it. It has to address business disruptions due to pandemics or natural disasters or terrorist activities. whatever the case may be. And it tells the client what we're going to do to make sure we can still fulfill our obligation to them in terms of if we're going to go from New York and throw the switch in New Jersey, whatever our plan happens to be. It has to be disclosed in writing to the customer when they open their account. We can post it on the website. And if it's not available on the website, we mail it upon request. We have to have 2 emergency contact persons. These emergency contact persons should be general securities principals. I mean, there's exception where the second one may not have to be a general securities principal, but they should be 2, and you need to review it annually to make sure that is up to date. It used to drive me nuts, Brian. And when I was going through college, I was a graveyard security supervisor, huge mall complex. And, something would happen at 2 or 3 in the morning. I'd call somebody, they'd cuss me out, say they haven't worked there in 10 years. I would apologize profusely. So, you got to make sure that every year you're going to review it and make sure that's still the case. Anything you want to add to that, Brian, in terms of that?
A couple of things. Wow. Isn't the Series 24 fun?
Yeah, babysitting sevens.
Some of these social media questions can show up on the NASA exam 63, 65, 66. Not to that degree. However, I've also heard of a business continuity plan question on the 65. Again, pretty basic, pretty light. Website, links, where you can go in case of disaster, right?
I think that
all fallout from the 9/11 is where all that came from.
Yeah, exactly right. Who would have thunk it? And then the pandemic required an update. Right. We didn't used to have to discuss pandemics as part of our business continuity plan, but as a result of COVID, we certainly do. All right, so now to our regularly scheduled programming. Let's see. Jacob won't be able to make it tonight. We'll be watching later. Again, this is available as a replay. It's also available as a podcast episode on Spotify. How deep in the weeds do I need to get on net capital requirements? Jacob, I did answer you in chat. It's mainly recognition. I would know the various types of broker-dealers, introducing, clearing, mutual fund by wire, that kind of thing. I would know that there's 3 standards of net capital, hard dollar amount, an AI to net capital, debt to equity if you have a subordinated loan. I would definitely, Jacob, know about subordinated loans. What are the terms of a subordinated loan? Temporary subordinated loans, that is heavily tested. So, and then the rest of it's light. The assumption is that on 24, that you're not a financial and operations principal. Somebody who works for you is. And so what you're held accountable is to have a reasonable discussion with a financial operations principal where you go, oh yeah, I remember on my 24. That's a bad thing, right? So that kind of thing. All right, let's see what else we got going on. Taking series for Thursday. We will certainly wish you, Mitchell, good luck. I like the kitty. It looks like a kitty cat there. I like that kitty cat. Taking 66, Rosanna. Taking the 63. Victoria's test taker in the house. Estuardo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think that's pretty cool. Estuardo.
Yes.
Is that cool? I like that. Well, kudos on your SIE. What is your next testing victory? Or is your next testing victory going to be a 6? Is it going to be a 7? The journey of 3-0 begins with 1-0. Looks like you're on your way to the hat trick. Thanks for the content. You're welcome. As a buzzword, it's been very helpful. SIE Vegas. I like it. Loca. People used to give me grief. I am a huge public transportation fan. And even though when I was a Warrior season ticket holder on the floor for many years, I had a stenciled parking spot. In other words, it says Dean Tenney, and I get to park with the players and the VIPs. And people make fun of me because I'd still ride Bart and, back and forth. And Bart, I'd be there like 30 minutes and I can get out of there. And I remember one time I had too many cocktails, Brian, and people were worried about me. And, they were worried about, how I got home. And they said, Dean, you didn't drive last night. Nah, I got on Bart. Big fan of both guys. Marcel, I'm sending mom to Europe, Marcel. So I'm going to get a little bit of a mom break. So I'm kind of excited about that. We both need a break from each other. So I hope she enjoys herself. And I'm going to give her a little spending money. So if you come visit, remember dinner is on myself. And I'm going to invite Brian, Marcel, because you were kind enough to do it. We're going to check out that new steak place where you took us to dinner. It's been revamped or rebranded or whatever. Brian says it's wonderful. So that's on me. Let us know when you can get out to come see us. Don't be terrified.
Terrified?
I mean, I just don't like that. I mean, I just don't like that. I guess, Rosanna, I guess what I would say is pretend you're not. Right? Fake it till you.
Just a test.
It's just a test. Yes, it's
66.
not.
She's already been through a few of them. So what the heck?
It's not a monster.
You're a veteran.
It's not a monster under your bed.
Or in your closet.
Yeah, and terrified. There's a healthy level of anxiety. I would think come up with a study plan, execute your study plan. The better you can do on that, I think the more confidence you can build. And so I find that if you can build your confidence, that terrified edge will maybe come down a little bit, but it's not a good spot to be. So, let's find out, come up with a plan about how you're going to be less terrified. We do have, Rosanna, there are people in the chat who have slayed this monster, this 66 dragon. It is been killed by many folks. Maybe that can be some comfort to you. There are many people that go down there and get this done. So
let's change that term to confidently anxious.
I like it. I like that better, indeed. When does an admin have a right to request to look at your books anytime they want? I don't have that. Leah, there's no reasonable cause, I guess, if that's what you're asking me. I always joke the state administrators are typically attorneys, and he or she would make a lot more in private practice than they make being the state administrator. But what they don't make in money, they get instead in power. So I can't imagine a circumstance on which I'm going to tell an admin that they don't have the right to look at my books and records. So if you have the context of a QID, for example, if it's Kaplan, or you want to screenshot that, cut and paste it, and send it to us at Livestream at googleexamprep.com, I'm more than happy to look at the context and see why that is. But my answer is whenever they want. What's your answer, Brian? You
ever been through a surprise audit from the administrator? That's
I have.
I have too.
But Brian, it was so funny. His name was Lenny.
Lenny.
And, Lenny, he was from District 1. He's not the state administrator. He's a FINRA guy from District 1. But I was so naive, Brian. He shows up and I'm giving him what he thinks. I think he's going to be here for the day. And then, at the end of the day, he says, well, I'll be back tomorrow. And I go, tomorrow?
Why?
Yeah, I said, how long are you going to be here? So I'll be here the whole week. I'm like, what? I don't think I conduct enough business to keep him busy for a week.
This is your annual inspection.
Yeah. Past the 66. Woo! Hey, there you go. So who was it that was terrified? Rosanna. Madison's in the house. Victoria, 66 test taker. Madison, was it a monster or not?
Did the 66 before the 7.
Wow. Second time's the charm on the 7. Yeah, 66. By the way, I think, Madison, I love it. You showed resiliency. You're out of sequence. I don't think that's a problem. You got a testing victory. So that's 2, I'm assuming. Your SIE. You're 66. So what are you, 2-1? Get the 7 done, you'll be 3-1. 3-1. That'll get it done.
That's batting 750. I'll take it.
Okay, Daniel. So best efforts. I'm acting in my agency capacity to the issuer. I say as an underwriter, an investment banker, I'm going to do my damnedest to sell these securities. But my broker dealer or my syndicate is not willing to be at risk for unsold securities. We have some 24s, I think, that are listening in. And if all I want to do is best efforts underwritings, my net capital standard is much lower because there's no contingent liability to me as a broker dealer. Daniel, my firm was called Gama Global Investments after Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese explorer. And on the banking side, Daniel, the only deals I did were best efforts deals, where Gama Global would say, we'll do our damnedest to raise this $10 million for you, but it's going to take us a while to go find it. It's not like we got laying it around. Now, I would lose deals sometimes because a firm commitment deal, Daniel, is also known as a bought deal, not testable, but BOGHT, where the syndicate or underwriter or investment banker just tells the issuer that $10 million is done. I will make sure that those shares are sold. In a firm commitment underwriting, we're acting in our dealer principal capacity, and you're not buying the stock from the issuer. The classic example, Daniel, I use is Facebook. Facebook, when it went public at 38, the IPO was a firm commitment underwriting led by Morgan Stanley.
Yes, it
And
was.
they are at risk for unsold securities. As far as Mark Zuckerberg is concerned, that stock is sold at 38. That deal got wobbly, and they were asking Zuckerberg about it. And he goes, well, it's not wobbly as far as I'm concerned. The way I understand a firm commitment underwriting, that's the syndicate stock at 38. And what they do with it is their problem. See, you wouldn't want to be yet. Yeah, his understanding is pretty damn good. And the syndicate lost $200 million in the Facebook IPO. Now, they wouldn't have priced it at 38 if they didn't think they could make the money and make a lot of it. But that's a firm commitment underwriting, dealer principal capacity. So if you bought the Facebook stock, Daniel, you didn't buy it from the issuer, you bought it from the underwriting syndicate. If you're taking a 24, then it becomes an issue about knowing what a stabilizing bid is. In this case, the stabilization agent, in my Facebook example, is going to stabilize it at 38 or lower. We're going to sell all we can, and then we're going to remove our stabilizing bid. It's kind of a legal form of pegging, and it will find its natural price. The test question on the 24 is that you can only use stabilization in a firm commitment underwriting. The stabilizing bid has to be at or below the public offering price. In example 38, only one person can enter it. It's got to be in the prospectus. Better have the prospectus and not need it than need it and not have it. One other point. If you are a selling group member in a firm commitment underwriting or any underwriting, selling group members are never liable for unsold securities. Never. Brian, anything you want to add to that?
You know I do.
Oh, what was that?
You know I do.
Okay.
Easy. So let's condense all that.
Okay.
Best efforts, no financial liability on the underwriter. Firm commitment, you betcha. Just like Dean said, they pay them all $10 million. It's a done deal. Financial liability. That's really the biggest difference between the two is the amount of liability. And again, depending on which exam you're taking, how far or deep that can go. Like Dean said, for the 24, it gets into net capital requirements and stabilization bids and those sorts of things. I just don't see or hear too much in-depth questions on these on the Series 7 anymore.
Yeah, that's right. One other point, if you are 24 and joining us, the other thing is the haircut in an open contractual commitment, a firm commitment underwriting is 30%. I'm not going to make you do anything other than recognize that it's 30%. Because again, it ends up being an inventory position. Whatever Facebook stock we don't sell, it goes into inventory.
One other comment. Didn't that stock go down to 20?
It did. People forget. People forget.
From 38 to 20. Yeah.
I always joke, right? IPO either stands for it's probably overpriced. And, it's a sticky issue, which this one was, or IPO stands for instant profit opportunity.
Exactly.
And it's hot. Damn, Jessica, that hurts. I hate those barely missing, on 9s, 10s, and 24s. I'll defer to Brian here in a minute, Jessica. I find that on 9s, 10s, and 24s, very rarely does somebody completely blow it.
No, you're right.
Usually they're close and they just miss it by a couple. I don't know what to do about that, but yeah, it hurts. Good news, usually though, 9s, 10s, and 24s have other commitments besides taking their test. They're typically not full-time test takers, and the firms are forgiving. They understand that you got other responsibilities. If you are taking, I have a practice test, Jessica, where you can watch me go through and do it. I haven't had anybody do it with me, but I do have a 24 where I did get permission from the test taker and her firm to let me put it up, and it's going to be up Thursday, and it's a 24 practice test where you can watch us do it together. Does an associated person? Yes, that's the definition of an associated person, Jared. Right? So those are synonymous terms, and as far as I can't imagine a question where associated persons are not registered. Well, maybe if you're back office, we might have you fill out a U4 and do a fingerprint card, but other than that, it typically means you are registered because that's what an associated person means. And by the way, even that doesn't necessarily mean you're taking a test. You could be an associated person, fill out a U4, and not take a test. Very, very limited circumstances. Estuardo, Senator Series 6, April 30th. All right. So I'm going to go 2-0, 2-0 coming up. Passed the SIE yesterday. Woo! So victorious test taker in the house. If you are taking the SIE and you want to talk to a victorious test taker, I'm teaching an SIE class. We have about 30 people in it today. I don't know if any of them are joining us this evening, but if you are here, I don't know why you wouldn't want to listen to Dean and Brian about what you're going to receive on tests, but when there's victorious test takers in the house, you don't have to take our word for it. You could ask them. Say, hey. By the way, just before I said that, I just want to put a caveat there. Every draw is a little different, so don't be thinking that talking to somebody who just took the test is going to, you're going to get the same draw. Another victorious test taker. Wow. Woo. Yeah. All right. Good day. I've had actually 4 or 5 people from social media telling me they passed it today. So did they? The testing gods are smiling upon us. Woo. Woo. Feeling confident. I love it. At the same time, not really. Well, that's better, Edgar, than being terrified.
Confidently anxious. I like it.
I like it, right? I scored an 81 on my last series 66 practice. Yeah, absolutely. I think Brian and I, Austin, are a little. Listen, I know test prep vendors, Brian, who tell people they got to be in the 90s before they test, which is, I think, kind of ridiculous. I like mid 70s. I feel if you're consistently getting mid 70s, that you're not at risk. That's my own mark. 60 to 70 people still pass, but you're at risk, and that's not where you want to be. So I think you're great. 81's fantastic. So rinse and repeat, right?
Yeah.
Brian,
Austin, we basically use probabilities because of the number of people we see and the number of variables that can then occur that we have no control over. So again, mid 70s, we know probabilities are now 90% or above. In the 80s, probabilities go up over 95%. That's kind of how we do it.
Yeah. So by the way, Brian, your point. I did a class. I was talking to the corporate trainer, and we had 6 people who got between 60 and 70. I said, we're going to lose 3 of them. She goes, which 3? We'll save them. I go, I don't know. If we knew that, we would save them. It's probabilities. There's no reason that they should not pass. I mean, it's just some people get wobbly and they don't finish strong. So it's just statistics. And anyways, I was so happy all 6 of them passed. And she goes, you told me 3 of them are going to fail. I said, listen,
probability,
standard deviation. So Marcel, will reach out, Marcel. I don't know how many hours I owe you. It might be, I think I owe you maybe at 90 minutes. Marcel, Brian won the coaching call. I don't know, 2 times in a row, and I think he won it a 3rd time. Marcel, obviously, you just tell me, and I'm more than happy to put you on the schedule and help you out if you need help on that 65. 66 in SIE. Definitely a challenge, but my study materials helped a lot. Oh, that's it. Done. Woo.
She's the one that just passed the 66 and on to the 7. Right?
I love it.
She's the one that's back.
Dean's YouTube. There you go. Brian's course. I love it.
Man, that is perfect. I love it.
I love it, Madison. You used all the arrows in your quiver. The more arrows you have in the quiver, you had your Kaplan arrow in your quiver. You had my YouTube channel, another arrow in your quiver, and Brian's supplement. Listen, if you have those resources, I know not everybody does, whether it's time or money, but if you do, it is not a time to be frugal. Go get that paid supplement from Brian. Go get that Kaplan QBank. Watch my channel. Spend 1,000 hours with Dean. Trying to get my dad to spot me the cash for Brian's 7 course. Let's hope Dad comes through, right? Why wouldn't he, Madison? If you need to stick us on him, I'm more than happy to do it because
make sure you use the Guru 20 discount code.
Yeah, it's $100. $100. 103, I think, with the 20% discount. I have now, Madison, you don't have to share your private business in chat, but I'm just wondering if your dad's in the business, because if he is, if he doesn't give you 100, let me know and I'll give him a call. Say, hey. I find, Brian, that a lot of 2nd generation people are coming through the business.
Yeah,
I've had all kinds of sons and daughters, and they're taking over their dad or their mom's, book of business. And if that's the case, I would certainly say you got to pay. Pass the SIE. Oh man, I think we're setting a record here on this live stream for testing victories. Wow. Pass the QBank and the videos. Great. I have a lot of resources for the SIE. As you know, Alex, I have 4 playlists for the SIE. Playlist 1 is lectures on the SIE. Playlist 2 is practice test and practice questions. Playlist 3 is a podcast episode. What did I say? I had 4, right? I'm missing one. Lectures, practice tests, podcast. I only have 3. I thought I had 4. I'm missing one. There's 3 or 4 there in the playlist.
Now she has to take the 65, life and health, the 7 and 63.
Woo! Well, we have playlists for all that. It's 7. We got lots of stuff.
Except for the life and health. We don't do insurance.
Yeah, we don't do life and health. So I always joke, Alex, insurance agents sell fear, stockbrokers sell greed. Insurance agents say, wouldn't life suck if? Stockbrokers say, hey, wouldn't life be
wonderful?
Yeah. If you're duly registered, you can sell fear and greed. Brian and I are only on the greed side of the equation. I'm joking. Well, thank you. Failed the 7 twice. Ugh. So you got, that third one's big, as you already know. So we want to make sure you get that third one. 66 on the first try, 70. Oh, that hurts. So you need help. Well, you're not alone. I think hanging out in the Tuesday live stream, is helpful for your psyche. People are in a similar situation. I would also go to the Facebook group, Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks, and get some support there. If you can isolate that maybe in terms of subject areas, in terms of hopefully we can find an area that if we improve it, you can get over that finish line. So don't be too hard on yourself. I personally think that 60, 66, and 70 is not a knowledge deficit problem. It's some other variable. I don't know, changing answers, whatever the case may be. Help is available. Go right now and register for the live stream overtime session at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. I charge $225 an hour for tutoring. And so the live stream is a way to get access without paying the $225. And I will let you, just because of our interaction today, I will also let you register for that free office hour that is usually only for people who have spent some money. So go there. That gives you, 2 hours of some help with myself on a whiteboard. I'd limit the live stream to 10 participants. That's that overtime session next Tuesday. And I limit the office hour to 5 people. Dad is actually the CEO of the company I'll be working for. There we go. Well, you know what? Then he should damn well come up with $100, right? Well, nepotism. Hey, some people pay. I was Madison. This is a billionaire guy that I tutored, and funny guy. But he says, Dean, you think I'm like the only billionaire that's actually taking these tests? And I said, absolutely. Anybody else who's your equivalent would, have this set up so somebody else is taking the test and not themselves. But anyways, long story short, his daughter got a job at Goldman Sachs Private Wealth Management. And so he had hired me to tutor her as well. And he flew me in his private airplane to Nantucket to tutor her. And, he came to us, I was staying in the pool house, Madison. This pool house is a mansion of itself. But anyways, he says to Alexa and I, he says, I'm flying to Monaco and you and Dean should fly with me and he can tutor you in the plane. I said, oh my God, that is so what we ought to do. And then she goes, well, no, I have my Series 7 class starting Monday. I got to go to class, Dad. I said, no, you don't. The whole point of your dad is you don't have to go to class. And then he said, well, you want me to call, I won't mention the guy's name. They want me to get you out of it. And she goes, no, Dad, don't do that. She was afraid of, nepotism and all that. And I said, listen, you got to get over who your dad is. I hate to break the news to you, but you only got the job because of your dad. I tell everyone in the world that I know your dad. And trust me, if you call them up, they're going to want you flying around the plane meeting rich people. They don't want you going to a 4-day Series 7 class. Last leg of the testing journey. I love it. Retaking the 66, failed by 2 questions. Watched the 60 minutes before, felt confident with scoring 80s. Rules and regs got me. Back in the book this week. I like it. Going back to the book. That happens. We were talking about statistics. Every once in a while, Kellen, there is a statistical anomaly where somebody does everything we ask them to do and they still miss the mark. And it sounds like you're one of those folks. Brian?
Well, laws and regs. First thing I always think.
Yeah, I will link, Kellen. I will link. Brian did a
person's registration.
Yeah, let's see if we can get Brian to do another evening class. But he did one for us on definition and registrations of persons, and I'll link that in the video descriptions. It's very popular. A lot of people have found it very, very helpful. And so I will link that in the video description for you. Check that out. I think it'll be very, very helpful. Find you a couple points at least, I would think. So good point, Brian.
Especially on 66.
Good reminder. Failed the 7 twice. Listen, there's very successful people in our business. AXA is one of them. Because when you fail and then you pass, you've proven that you're resilient. And being resilient is actually a more important indicator of your future success in our securities industry than is passing tests. So there's lots of people who have struggled to get this, make their mark, as Brian says, get their P. And nobody really cares, to be honest with you. Once you pass and you're making money, nobody's going to ask you, oh, did you fail your 2 series? I had a guy, his name was Troy, and actually he used to go out and tell people, listen, everybody knows this stuff. It's me. I had to take this damn test 5 times. Proof that people invest with you because they like you and they trust you, not because, you're a good test taker. I can't prove it, but when we gave scores, there was direct correlation to people who did not do well in our industry who had very high scores. I got somebody got over 90.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, I got somebody got over 90. I'd say, I think I should just fire you right now. And they say, why? I said, how am I going to supervise you? You're smarter than me. You're always going to be one step ahead. I think you may be too analytical to go out and talk to people about money. Failed the 66 on Friday. So while the freshes hurt, McKenna, I would do an intellectual inventory with yourself. Print out the test specifications. Do a plus for things you intellectually own. You're above par passing. Do a minus for things you need help on. 0 means at par. May 10th, I'm struggling with analysis, knowing what to use. 2 videos that I will link. So Brian did a video on discounted cash flow and internal rate of return. He loves that video. I don't love it as much as the first one, but hey, no, I'm joking. They're both great. So I'll put those in the video descriptions. So any tips, watch those 2 videos we're going to link for you in the video description. Equations are mainly, I don't know if I study equations. I would know input and output. So McKenna, I had a guy, bought tutoring $225 an hour. And he said, Dean, I'm not paying you $225 to do math with me. I'm a serious math geek. Give me any 2 numbers. I can solve for the third. Good news, he passed, but he said, Dean, a little bit of hubris on my part. A lot of times they just asked me to recognize the formula. I didn't memorize any of them. I was able to reverse engineer it because I'm a math guy, but because I wish I would have maybe a flashcard or 2 just to recognize the inputs and the outputs of the math. A lot of times they don't ask you to actually do the math as much as recognize what would be necessary to do the math, the components. Like I need the number of compounding periods. I need the rate of return. I need the present value to figure out future value or vice versa. While studying for Series 6, it's, I think, Lady Brill, I think I said this to my class today. It's probably going to bite me in the butt at some point, Brian. But I do think if you overlearn the SIE, I do believe you can almost pass out of a 6. So, there's a couple little more things there, a little more depth on variable annuities. But I think you're in good shape. There's a lot of overlap, much more overlap on SIE to 6 than SIE to 7. Your thoughts, Brian, on the overlap? Or?
Yeah. Deep in mutual funds, deep in variable annuities.
Retail communication. Make sure you got communications.
The other one, retail communications, client accounts.
Yeah. I have every expectation if you pass your SIE, you can certainly take down the 6.
Yeah.
Pass the 7. Wow. Hey, did we give Lady Brill? Did we ring the bell for her? I don't know if we did. Woo! Again, you don't have to take our word for it. You can ask Creighton if you're a Series 7, victorious Series 7 test taker in the house. Passed on the second try. There you go. Passed 2 tests. He passed his 7. He passed a test of resiliency. I love it. He's now on to that third leg, is 66. Woo! Do you have an easy way to remember all the exempt transactions? I do not. Do you, Brian? The cheat sheet? What do you?
Part of my class notes, I separate out the exempt securities from the exempt transactions. And Dean, you said one of the most beautiful things that I've stolen from you in the 30 years that I've known you. Exempt securities is a noun. Exempt transactions is a verb.
Yeah.
I just think that.
Yeah, Exempt securities, right, is a list of things that are exempt. They just don't have to comply. An exempt transaction is a verb how we're selling it.
Right.
I don't know if I've rolled this one out to you, Brian, yet or not. This is what I'm working on. It's not ready, Leah, for prime time. So but here we go. At Kaplan, I'm a senior instructor emeritus. What that means is I'm not really a Kaplan employee. I still teach classes for Kaplan. I'm still referred to as a senior instructor. But one time, Brian, I was teaching with a junior instructor. And he said, Dean, I thought that we have to wear a blazer and a tie when we're teaching. I said, that is true. You need to be wearing. He goes, you're not wearing a blazer and a tie. And I said, I never do, and I never will. I am exempt from that. There is no scenario in which a dean is required to show up in a blazer and a tie. And he said, well, what about me? I said, well, there might be certain classes, transactions, in which you would not be required to wear a blazer and a tie. But the default would be you should be wearing a blazer and a tie. Yeah. I further said to him, he said, Dean, you're wearing Birkenstocks. And I said, well, I am. And he said, well, what about me? I said, well, the less competent you are, the more formally you ought to be dressed. He said, are you speaking? I go, well, shoe fits, it wears. Anyways, I'm thinking about rolling that analogy out. I don't know if it quite works, but right? I'm a list and he's a verb. I'm a noun and he's a verb. I had a question, current ratio, very testable, Kellen. I'm not surprised. Current ratio is simply the current assets divided by the current liabilities. I know that, but couldn't get any answers. Kellen, and Brian can comment on this. Brian, I find sometimes it's not as easy as just giving you the current assets. Sometimes they give you a list of assets and one of them is not a current asset. So that could have been throwing off your math. The other thing that could have given you some liabilities, and not all of them, we call those ledger entries, were current liabilities. So that would be my guess about why your math was off. My guess is that they didn't just tell you the current assets, but rather gave you some assets, gave you some liabilities, and then you had to determine that. Your point, Brian?
I have a question on my additional questions from the video course. Question number 25. It's actually on quick ratio, which of course is just a relative to current ratio. It's actually the harder one of the two, and 90% of the people who take this question get it wrong.
Well, there you go.
One reason, and I try to go through all of that. Why and the reason why I'm going to rearrange the formula. Yeah. I just said exclude the.
So I'm going to ask Brian. Brian is very kind to us in terms of his time, and what I want you to do, Kellen. I don't know if you have Brian's supplement, but what I want you to do is send Brian an email,
please,
and ask him if he will be kind enough to either cut and paste that for you,
yes,
so that you can look at that question. Or, reach out to Brian to maybe you'll be kind enough to, just get on the phone with you and go over it. I have it as well. The question, I'm more than happy if you want to send me an email at Series 7 Guru at a Guru Exam Prep. And I have permission from Brian. I'm more than happy to do a little Zoom with you real quick and go over it. So either way, reach out though. Brian's questions, I think, are spot on. And my guess is that his question is kind of like what I told you people tell me they see on debrief, where is that why people are missing that question, Brian, from you?
It's about inventory. So they actually end up subtracting it twice from the formula, and that's kind of what happens there.
Okay.
There's a couple of things. And how many times do you and I say, Dean, that the 65 and 66, you gotta know your balance sheets?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm teaching the SIE now and a 7 next week, and I always tell them, don't worry about it on that, but when you get to 65, 66, you got to have a general understanding of a balance sheet. I can also have a lecture, and I think Brian has one. I have one on balance sheets, so I'll put that as well in the video description, where I actually go through a balance sheet and rip it apart, and we talk about all these things. So I will link to that as well in the video description. I'll link to Brian's as well. Just so you know, Brian does have free stuff too. So besides his paid supplement, Brian has a Test Geek YouTube channel where there is some free stuff there as well. What's the difference between people? Well, 24s are what are called general securities principals, and 9 and 10s, Madison, are sales supervisors. The old term for a 9-10 was a branch office manager, and both of them babysit 7s. That's what I think of it as well. But there's things 24s can do that 9s and 10s can't. 24s, for example, can approve advertising. 24s don't supervise options. That's a series 4. So, I don't know. I would think of a 24 53-4 as the equivalent of a 9-10 with much more stuff you can do. Brian, your comments on the distinction?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, too many.
Yeah. Plan to watch your playlist in specific areas on weekend. There you go. Man, I'm telling you, this is fantastic. Man, we are having so many people. Man, take the test tomorrow. We're in a good testing wave right now. Lots of victorious test takers. Sign up for Brian 66 and the STC. So onward. Take it next week. We're wishing you luck. We're wishing you luck for sure. Kellen, you are welcome. You are welcome. Well, hey, it looks like, Brian, we might actually get out of here early today.
Yay!
Does that look like we're through? Does anybody have any more questions? All right. Well, let me get out our giveaway tool here. I usually have Brian put whatever he would like to as our word. What do you want to put for our word, Brian? You got any ideas, or you want me to come up with one?
Well, let's just, in celebration.
Huskies. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. Huskies. You got to put it in exactly.
It also could be University of Washington too. So.
There you go. Oh, there you go. That's true. I forgot you guys are Huskies too. All right. Let me now go find the giveaway tool. If you want to participate, remember, you need to send me an email at coachingcall@guruexamprep.com within 1 hour of the drawing. And what you're winning is either any of the option classes I'm offering: basic options, stock plus options, that's covered calls and protected puts, or advanced option strategies. If you can't participate, you're welcome to give that to somebody who can. And boom, let's see. There we go. And let me find the email. There's the boom. All right, we got one entry. Nobody's interested in joining me for class. I guess the coaching calls are more popular.
Here they come. Here they come. Now they're coming.
They're coming in there. 3. Oh, that's man. A slow night here. Slow night. But to be honest with you, I'm ready for a slow night. I'm ready for.
Yeah, I got on a plane today from Vegas to Seattle.
Yeah, the jet set life. I taught an SIE. I ended up staying in the cabin, Brian, off grid Monday, and taught the class the first day of the class from the off grid studio. And then I right at 4 o'clock when class was over, I hightailed it back to Vegas. So, I'm running on fumes.
Yeah.
All right, 14, last call. Is that it? Last call, going once. All right, here we go. Here we go with the drawing.
Drum roll, please.
I got to learn how to do sound effects. That would be pretty cool. Alex Zaza, you are the winner. So you send me an email, and then I will send you the dates of the classes that you are welcome to have. You're welcome to join us as a winner for the basic options, stock plus options, or advanced option strategies, which is spreads or straddles. And let me now pull that down. There's Brian and I. Let me get rid of this. Boom. All right. So remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. Brian, and you say?
I can't emphasize it enough. You got to learn to keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
Oh, man, that's so beautiful.
Good night.
All right, everybody. Bye-bye. We'll see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time.